2. Hey there, welcome to SharkCast, a podcast dedicated to the greatest sporting club in the history of the entire world, the mighty Cronulla Sharks. My name is Sam Shinazzi, OG since 2015, our 12th season of podcasting, and really pleased to be back doing it more and more and more, especially in 2026. Brought to you by Dyson Logistics, the legends at the Royal Motor Yacht Club in Port Hacking, and Jason Hawes at Cripps and Cripps Real Estate. All great people. Please support those great businesses. Now, on the other end of the line is my good buddy, Ben Harlum from New York City. Well, he lives in New York City. He's not from New York City. How are you, Ben?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
I'm good. And so what we're doing on this episode, and hopefully future episodes throughout the year, is going to be looking back at the year that was 2016. And we're going to break it down by either a game or a couple of games, maybe even a period of games, just to sort of make sure we get through all the episodes and all the games throughout the year. But essentially looking back on the year that changed all of our lives. And if you weren't around for that because you're a bit younger, you can hear about how it changed our lives and hopefully to bring you a bit of fun along the way, a bit of knowledge. But we know a lot of you experienced it, and we want to just go back because it is the 10-year anniversary coming up. And that's the aim. Whether we get through the aim, whether it's a one-off episode, we'll see what happens. But we do have good intentions, and it's been coming for a long time. The plans changed along the way, and this is where we're at now. And we get Benny back. We might get some other people to do it, so just bear with us. But this is the first episode, and we want to take you back to 2016. Now, Ben, the two top shows on Netflix that year, around the world, season 4 of Orange is the New Black, and season 1 of the now just finished Stranger Things. Does that surprise you?
It doesn't. Well, it surprises me how long it took for Stranger Things to go through all of its seasons. But you got to remember, like, 2016, we're only like a year into Australia actually having Netflix. Beforehand, you had to sort of sign up via an American. You have to have an iTunes card, and you have to go around the world to try and make it work. And then finally, they brought it down around 2015-ish. So yeah, Orange is the New Black was huge.
Now, we're both music guys. The ARIA, so Australia Top Songs of 2016.
Yep.
These ones, 2 of these at least kind of went by me, I reckon.
Okay.
Closer by the Chainsmokers featuring Daya. That was number 1. One Dance by Drake.
Yeah, that was big. There was a dance and a trend to that as well. So that obviously helped. Yeah.
So my boy Drake, Degrassi alumni. And Flume, Never Be Like You, was the 3rd highest song in Australia that year.
Yeah, Flume had a major moment around then. In the, you'd be shredding for Stereosonic. I'm sure you were doing that, Sam, and going to see Flume and all of the DJs or whatever, and get your kit off and go wild, glow sticks or whatever. It says me that's never been to Stereosonic, so I have no idea what it was like. But yeah, all 3 huge bangers from the year.
Now, this one does affect you and I, and probably some of our listeners.
Yeah.
And I'd completely forgotten about this. Taylor Swift was cancelled due to a feud with Kanye West, Nutty, and Kim Kardashian.
Yeah, and really, even without going into the real specifics, just the mere fact of what Kanye is like now sort of proves that Taylor was in the right?
Absolutely.
Because he's just an absolute awful person. And that sort of changed things up really, because everybody everyone took Kim and Kanye's side, and at least in the pop world and with all of Taylor's fans, she felt like that she was cancelled, even though you probably can't ever really be cancelled no matter what. And then that drastically changed her career, I guess, for the better then, because she came back stronger and stronger, and now look, she's the biggest musician on the planet. But yeah, you can point it all back to 2016.
Personal friend of yours as well, Taylor Swift.
Close personal friend. That's right.
Now, the 2016 Olympics were held in Brazil. The Australian PM was Malcolm Turnbull. Now, this one kind of threw me. Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton went head-to-head in the presidential election, which would shape the future world.
Yeah, I remember exactly where I was driving home from work when the old meter that said that there was a 99% chance of Hillary winning the election. I literally pulled over and filled my car up with petrol, and then the moment I got back in the car, that meter had swung the complete opposite way, and it changed everything.
And that's all you're going to say on it because you are living in New York City, and we're just going to leave it at that. Now, as far as the animals go, I did my research, Ben. It was the year of the monkey. Okay, year of the monkey. But we're going to challenge people. We think there was another animal that it might have been the year of, which you might hear in about 25, 30 episodes. Now, back to the heart of the matter. 2015, the Cronulla Sharks. I've quoted Billy Bragg, the musician, the great leap forward. And if it wasn't the great leap forward, it was a leap with the leap soon to follow. Now, I've prepared a monologue. Bear with me, Benny. A year earlier, 2014, Sharks pick up the wooden spoon for the first time ever in club history. The only time. Numerous sackings, suspensions. There was a complicated finding of what was dramatically termed the darkest day in Australian sport. We lost countless amounts of money due to fines, loss of sponsorship, etc. The same year, there was a huge list of injured and suspended players. Numerous coaches came and went. The press still found a way to make us sound like the most evil of evil that ever eviled. So much so that it sparked a younger, non-grey, thinner but heavier-haired indie rock alt country musician, statistician, to start the first ever podcast about the mighty Cronulla Sharks and one of the first ever rugby league podcasts. But in the words of Yaz, for our older pop fans, the only way was up, baby. 2015, Shane Flanagan returns to coaching. Paul Gallen as captain. Lyle Gorman introduces CEO. Steve Price, assistant coach, played at Raimonda Stadium. The future of the club and the love of my life, Valentine Holmes, our top try scorer, and the Sharks finished 6th on the ladder. Wooden spoon to 6th. One day after my beautiful boy Chester was born, Sharks win week 1 of the finals against South, 28-12 at the SFS. Hopes were high. We literally fly a plane to Townsville, where all hope was abandoned, losing 39-0 to the Cowboys, who would, to be fair, go on to win their first ever title weeks later. 2015, first year of SharkCast TV, post-game live call-in shows, live shows with listeners, watch-alongs, player interviews. Something was building. Cronulla was becoming fun again for a whole bunch of us. 2016 rolls around, which is where we're at, Benny. Despite what the club would tell us, it was our 50th season, 50 seasons and no titles. But we had a great leagues club, a ground we loved, and some new recruits. I'm going to remind you of the new recruits right now, Benny, and we'll come back to them. James Maloney from the Sydney Roosters, Chad Townsend from the New Zealand Warriors, Jesse Sini Lafayette from Manly, Jordan Drew from the Brisbane Broncos, Josh Cleland from the Ipswich Jets, Captain America Joseph Paulo from Parramatta, Kurt Capewell from Ipswich, and Matt McCulloch from the Roosters. We said farewell to Michael Gordon, who went to Parramatta. We said farewell to Blake Ashford, who went to the Warriors. We said farewell to a young Josh Adokar, who went to the West Tigers. We said farewell to the Warrior. That was Jeff Robson, who became a Warrior. Kyle Stanley retired, and Curtis Scott, well, he went to Melbourne. We'll leave it at that. There was a feeling something was building, and we would never forget this time ever. There was a nines tournament. Didn't go too well. We beat the Titans, then we lost to a few teams, including the dastardly Dragons, and also to the Raiders. But then we had trial matches, Benny. Manly at home. SharkCast commentated on the game, Newman and myself, via the Sharks official channels. In the opening seconds, Chad Townsend made an error. Kurt Capewell was penalised, and then with one of his first touches, James Maloney threw an intercept leading to a try, a pick six. But they ended up with a 24-all draw against Manly. Then the next week, We had a 30-all draw against the Tigers. 2 draws to open the season in the opening trials. And this leads us to round 1, Ben, up at 1300 Smile Stadium. Now, before we get there, I've just given you a lot of info.
You have.
Let's talk about the recruitments.
Yep.
So Maloney and Townsend in particular, a couple other key ones. But how did you feel that year going in there with Chad coming back after a pretty good year at the Warriors, and Maloney's just always been in good touch? What were your thoughts there?
Well, I remember before Chad left that it was always the, like, when's Chad going to get his chance, playing in the halves and really showing what he had shown in the lower grades. And then he was pretty decent for the Warriors, and then was a tidy pickup for us to have back. And then the funny thing looking back, at the time, and then also sort of looking back at some of the articles in the lead up to the preseason, Sam, was that I don't think enough was made of Maloney coming to the Sharks. I think like a lot of the preseason coverage was more around Jack Bird and like where he was going to play. He said in the lead up that he hadn't trained once in the halves in the preseason. He played fullback in that Manly draw, or at least him and Val switched between fullback and center in that draw that you were just talking about. So he was in a bit of a shootout for fullback position, and there was a lot of conjecture about like how he would fit into the team, and that sort of almost overshadowed the fact that we had this like wherever he went, things happened. Teams won or made grand finals in James Maloney coming to the club. And it's funny now in hindsight that, we talk about him being like one of the real key signings in the club's like 50 plus year history. But at the time, while it was super important, there was lots of other sort of concerns about, okay, how does Ben Barber fit in? He just played in the halves the year before. Where does, before he was injured, where's Jack Bird fit in? He played in the halves. We've got Chad back. We've got Maloney back. There was a lot going on, and it's just funny now to see how everything turned out so perfectly. The lead up to it, everything was all over the shop. So, it's funny that not a lot, maybe it was just what I was consuming, but it didn't seem like a lot was being made of the fact that we had James Maloney there.
No, I think you're right. And I think that even just Chad coming back, I don't think he probably got enough credit for what he did at the Warriors. They had a good year, but he was really good. And he was sort of showing week in, week out, he could do this. And as you said, he didn't get that opportunity necessarily week in, week out before he left. So I think both of them coming home was very understated. But even in the first match we're going to talk about, you can see the importance of what they're going to build. And the other thing was, the fullback position was, I think Ben Barber was given first kind of priority, but there was no guarantees there that would work given just his form in the years, in the few years before that. So obviously breakout years of the Dogs, but then he was at the Broncos and with us, and it wasn't really lights out Ben Barber, like there were flashes, but obviously something clicked in 2016. But a bit of the unknown there, I guess. We could see the team there and went, on paper it's a good team, but how's it gonna flesh out? So so they replaced in essence Michael Gordon and Jeff Robson as well, fullback and halves, who did great jobs for Cronulla. Like they played out of their skins. Like Gordon was just in rare form for us, and Jeff Robson, you knew what you were getting. Just all heart, never give up, some game-changing moments. But you sort of got the sense that you needed to bring in someone else, maybe either beside him or someone instead of him, to go next level, which is what they did. But full respect to those guys. And we will talk about other guys throughout this series, but obviously guys like Kirk Capewell, Captain America, Joseph Paulo in particular, would play really important parts throughout the year as well as backup. So they did well there. Now, I want to point out, Ben, before the NRL game, these were the glory days of NYC.
Oh,
so we had NYC.
Under 20s.
Yeah, there was talk it was going to come back. They've kind of canned that. But I miss it too. Like I used to work on it as a Sharks fan. I'd follow it very closely, and that's how you discover the next big thing. And you had, professional coverage of it week in, week out, no matter where you were. If you couldn't get to a game, you could watch it on Fox, record it, whatever. So about 5:15 p.m. Saturday, 5th of March, Cowboys NYC against the Sharks NYC at Townsville. Just a couple of names for you. Playing fullback for the Cowboys, Kalen Ponga at fullback. Their hooker was Brandon Smith, and Cohen Hess was also in the team, amongst some other guys you'd know. For the mighty Sharks, winger Sione Katoa, hooker Jaden Brayley, prop Jamin Jolliffe, and on the bench, an extended bench, Billy Magoulias and a young Will Kennedy.
Wow.
And I can tell you that the mighty Sharks won 30-16 in that game.
Sign of things to come.
Yeah, but I thought that was interesting. Both Ponga and Katoa, especially for us. And even, a young Brayley sort of biding his time, probably knowing that Annis only had a year or two left, which was accurate. And then he'd get his shot. So, very, very cool stuff, the NYC. We got off with a win there. And that leads us to the NRL game. It was a 7:30 kickoff, a hot one in Townsville, as you can imagine, round one. Now, these are your teams, and I believe even, Benny, for the people watching, not for the people listening, the people watching, I'm going to flash up some teams for you, and we'll talk about those. I really need an assistant. Here we go. So this is the Cowboys team. So you've got Coote, Felt. Now, keep in mind, these guys are coming off winning the title.
Yes.
So this is their big first home game after winning their first ever title. So Coote, Felt, O'Neill, Linnett, and Winterstein are your back five halves, very talented. Michael Morgan and Jonathan Thurston. Matty Scott, Jake Granville, James Tamau are the front row. Cooper, Lowe, and Tamalo are the back row. So an amazing forward pack. The subs are Kos Jason, John Asiata, Scotty Bolton, and Ben Hannon. So a pretty good team.
Yeah,
and very close to what I imagine would have been the grand final winning team. Now you go to the mighty Cronulla Sutherland Sharks, and there's one person here that's going to stand out to you, but let's go. Ben Barber, Sione Fecky, not Sione, Fecky on one wing, of course, and the future Valentine Holmes on the other wing. Jack Bird, Ricky Latelli in the centers. Maloney Townsend for the first time for the Sharks. Andrew Fafita, Mick Ennis. Now, Sam Tangatisi wasn't meant to... What am I saying here? Sam Tangatasi starts with Luke Lewis, Wade Graham, Paul Gallen. Your subs, Chris Hyington, Matt Pryor, Dave Fafita, Bikuya. But I believe there is a bit of a switcheroo. Looking at my notes. And Pryor actually starts. So Tangatisi to the bench, Pryor starts. David Fafita. We don't talk about this ever. Why don't we talk about it as I flash up the team on the screen? And what's the story there, David Fafita?
Yeah, interesting. It's I mean, I watched the game and I didn't even really notice it either. But yeah, another name that you sort of like some of the others that you had mentioned that had come to the club or ones that played important roles. I'm racking my brain trying to think of who the other fourth benchy spot is that we that normally goes there, Sam.
Gerard Beale in the grand final, maybe.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, it's so interesting. It was such an interesting year of how Flanagan used the bench and sort of tinkered with what the best strategy was. But yeah, David Fafita, round one on the bench.
Now we need to point out for younger viewers, this is not David Fafita that's playing at South this year and was at the Titans.
Correct.
This is Andrew's twin brother, David Fafita, yes. In case I didn't make that obvious. Now, doing a bit of a quick Googling, in May that year, so in a few months' time, Cronulla grant for David Fafita personal leave to address family issues in the United Kingdom. And he also was injured a bit as well throughout the season leading up to that moment. And I guess he just didn't come back. So that was his short time at the Sharks that year, Dave Fafita. And his brother would certainly go on to steal the show, that's for sure. But yeah, very interesting. As you say, Benny, like we haven't looked back at some of this stuff for 10 years, literally. And that one surprised me because I remember he was there, but I wouldn't have necessarily thought, oh yeah, he opened the premiership season with us. So
no, absolutely not. And I remember him being at the grand final, but purely just as a spectator, like the rest of us. Yeah, that's an interesting one, isn't it?
So here we go. Round one, Cowboys at home. Now, very early on in the warm-ups, shall we say, the team's run out. Matt Russell, good friend of the show from Fox Sports, he talks about Chad Townsend being back at the Sharks and his junior days at Yarrawarra, winning title after title, which is a fact, and how he would love, and he's assuming Chad's mindset, to be a Sharks grand finalist was the word he used, Matt Russell, before a ball is kicked. Pretty cool.
Yeah. Although, is he just settling for grand finalist? We want premiership winner. Little did we know what would be ahead of us.
Yeah, I'd probably need to pull him up on that in the corridors of Fox. But nevertheless, you could sort of see something was coming, Matty Russell. But interesting to note, first hit up, and it wasn't something that didn't happen every game, every year, but just a great reminder. Andrew Fafita, first hit up, and then he does one a couple of tackles later. So 2 hit ups in the opening set. Matt Pryor does the second hit up. Gallen does the third hit up. And Pryor is the first to the kick chase. So we're off and running. And that is almost a staple to how they're going to win the comp. Fafita, Pryor, Ennis is busy. What were your thoughts on our forwards at that point, Benny? I'm taking you back a long time, but
that's fine. One of the things that I noticed, Sam, much like you in terms of those hit ups, and I'm not specifically talking about the first hit ups, but in the first period of the game, the one thing that struck me was that at the start of our sets, we would the set that I'm thinking of and took notes of was it went Graham, Fafita, Lewis, and then Gal before it went to the 5th tackle. And obviously now these days, you might not even see a forward get a hit up until maybe the 4th tackle because our backs were so are so important at getting that momentum going and giving the forwards a bit of breathing room. So it's sort of I don't know, it wouldn't surprise me, but it just is. It's in such a little amount of time that it's so different between going from Graham, Fafita, Lewis, Gal, and now these days you've got Ronaldo, Katoa, Kennedy, Eero are making those big hit ups to start the set. That's the one thing that I noticed was a real difference between how we play now and how we played then. But like that's an all-star forward pack that you're talking about right there. Those names that you're mentioning, Sam, are like all-timers.
But the crazy part of that, Ben, is that you've got Sasaya Feki and Valentine the Future Holmes, who are absolute meter eaters, and they will show that throughout the year. And I think at times that game plan does change a bit, and we'll go throughout the games throughout the year. But the fact that Feki and Valentine Holmes are not doing those initial, in this game at least, early hit ups, they had a lot of meters in them throughout that.
Yeah.
Well, the whole 17, which is, I mean, why they went so far. But yeah, the forward pack is major. I mean, I talk about it a lot when we talk about this premiership winning team and how stacked it was. But yeah, Fafita, Matt Pryor, Luke Lewis, Wade Graham, Paul Gallen, with a guy like Tangatizi, who, as we'll see throughout the year, completely underrated. Like even when he was at the Titans, I want to say, like he was just a monster. He was a man monster. We can all picture him, but a very, very good forward. And then even guys like Hyington and Bakuya, who themselves just, eat meters for a living. I mean, the forward pack was so vital this season. And, we'll get to the whole team and how glorious it is, but there's not much weakness there. And that's a great thing. So, that was the opening set. And I also noticed that they went all the way down the other end, and then Ennis kicked on the 5th tackle. So a short kick, first kick of the game, Mick Ennis at hooker, something we weren't necessarily used to seeing a hooker kick that way. And we also had Wade Graham kicking this game. So if you look at that team, Ben, obviously you got Maloney and Townsend as the main kickers. Ben Barber can kick. Wade Graham can kick. Mick Ennis can kick. That gives you so much variety.
Yeah, and then as I said before, Jack Bird had been playing for most of the year in the halves. Now, I'm don't if this is wrong or I'm missing something, please don't slaughter me for it. But I made a note that Maloney's first kick was 11 minutes into the game.
Okay.
So, as you said, Ennis takes the first two kicks. He's controlling that side at the start of the game. He is really bossing everybody around, and you don't really see Maloney step up. And it's not visually evident that he is really directing everybody around until probably near the end of the first half. Ennis is controlling that side from the beginning. He's taking those kicks. He's determining those fifth tackle options where Chad and Maloney are there ready to go, but he's dictating where everything is going. It's very different. It's very interesting to see that, 11 minutes until Maloney gets his first kick in at the end of one of those sets.
Now, what Maloney is doing is he's running to the line, he's engaging the line, and that's creating all sorts of headaches already for the opposition, and that's something that would become a regular pattern throughout the year. And once he gets his kicking boots on, as you say, there's quite a few forced dropouts. So already this team is, and I'm not suggesting the year before they weren't doing this, but in round one, in the soaring heat with a new team, they're already sort of ticking these boxes that you need to do to win a comp, like to be a really great team. They're forcing dropouts back when, you'd get the ball back from a dropout. They've got a variety of kickers. Their forwards are doing the hard work. Like, it's all looking really nice. Now we have the first try goes to Justin O'Neill. It's from a kick. Fecky's unable to turn and chase. He was quite a solid unit. Not to say he wasn't fast, but he definitely probably wasn't a turn and chase kind of guy, Sasaya. And so the Cows go up 6-0 after 23 minutes. And then about 5 minutes later, Kane Lynette down their left side goes through Jack Bird and to a lesser extent, Chad Townsend. Cows are up 12-0. We're all sort of thinking, okay, this isn't ideal, but the Sharks aren't playing too bad.
It's an even at that stage. That score flatters the Cowboys because it is an even contest by that stage. The only thing that really is putting those alarm bells in is the fact that literally back in September the year before, we were 39-0 against them. So it's like, okay, we can't. And they're, as you said, they're just coming up winning the comp, and this is their big celebration back home. So as even as it was, you really don't want them to get to this sort of lead.
And that's a very important point you make. The 39-0, I didn't sell that enough earlier on. Like 39-0, historically, amazingly poor performance all round from that team. Major disappointment. They had a plane fly up full of supporters. Other supporters were there. There was a Leagues club full, watching on huge screens outdoors. I was down there with Newman. It was a great night until it wasn't. And 39-0, that one was pretty hard to take. And I mean, do you remember how you felt? Obvious disappointment aside, did you think there's a lot of work here to be done, or were you like, well, we've got new guys coming in, it's a new year? I was probably a bit 50-50, and I was like, you know what, you're probably not supposed to be losing these games 39-0. That's not a good sign.
Yeah, I remember I was up at Byron Bay. We were on a team weekend with the Nova Sydney crew, and we had just watched Fitzy from Fitzy and Whipper is an Adelaide Crows fan, and I believe we watched them get beaten quite convincingly in the finals. Don't quote me on that, but I remember he was disappointed the night before, and then it was my night the next night, and then I remember at halftime me thinking, okay, like we can get back into this, but then once they scored first out of the second half, it was like, okay, we're sort of done. And I just remember I remember thinking that was a missed opportunity because we had knocked out South in a really good game in the first week of the finals. They were obviously the defending premiers then in coming into 2015, so beating them and eliminating them at Allianz was a great game and a great result. Yeah, I just remember it being, okay, this is a missed opportunity, and maybe sort of I had the blinkers on and was just thinking, okay, we could have given things a pretty decent shake, but in hindsight, you can obviously see all of the missing pieces that we needed to fill before 2016. But yes, I very vividly remember watching that game.
Yeah, and we shouldn't leave out the fact again that they were going to go win the comp in a couple of weeks, so they were humming.
Yes, that's right.
And we thought we were humming, and we weren't. I'm not quite sure because we weren't 39-0 bad. Like it just, as in like the team running onto the field, they weren't 39-0 bad. They were probably underdogs, maybe but a lot of hope. I remember a lot of hope going into that game, and boy, oh boy, it was blown out of the water pretty quick. But yes, at 12-0 down, 2016 round one, as you say, Ben, it was a close game, but you don't want to be 12-0 down in Townsville against the Premiers.
And however, also, there were, if I remember correctly, there was almost a try that they scored, but there was a forward pass as well.
Yeah, there was a few tries that weren't. So yes,
yeah, there was a lot of opportunities there. It was each side had the momentum for a pretty decent amount, and it was pretty even. So it was a dicey one.
Now, thankfully, 37th minute, Chad scores a try. He puts up a kick. One of their players spills it. He's on the spot to get the ball back. And Maloney kicks the goal, and that's pretty important given what's going to happen throughout the season. James Maloney, just a rocket goal kicker. And we'd had some good guys in the past, as recent as Michael Gordon. Maloney, without looking at the stats, he's probably even a level above that. I mean, Gordon was very good, to be fair, but Maloney is a clutch player, and it would be good to know that was going to happen throughout the year. 12-6 at halftime. So we're back in it at halftime. Everything's okay. They come back out. It's still pretty hot. JT gets a penalty goal in the 43rd minute, so they go ahead 14-6. But then in the 48th minute, something beautiful happens. We get a Ben Barber inside ball. Jack Bird beats 2 or 3 players to score. Maloney gets the goal. It's 14-12 to them.
It's such a strong try, Sam. It's a really
down the right edge. And yeah, I mean, again, I keep talking about things to come because this is all brand new to us in a lot of ways. It's not a mass turnover, but the guys that have come in are super classy. And you got like a guy like Ben Barber playing fullback, and you're thinking about Ben Barber 2012 Canterbury, sky's the limit. So to see an inside ball from Ben Barber and then Jack Bird being so agile and strong as he was in those early days and injury free as far as, aside from his arthritis and all that sort of stuff that he had, but injury free, he was just an absolute weapon, Jack Bird, in those days, as we all know. So very good try. Go look it up on the YouTube if you want. And then in the 59th minute, we get a penalty goal. So it's all locked up. Maloney locks it up 14-all. And it's getting pretty interesting. So we've got a team that has shown that they can fight back against the Premiers. Now, the word's gone out to Maloney to go for the field goal. 67th minute, he misses a field goal, which is unlike him. This was a gettable one. He misses it. At the same time, around the same time, Paul Gallen injures his knee. So Paul Gallen is off the field for the last 15 minutes, which is pretty important. You want him out there. He's not there. 73rd minute, Thurston field goal miss. It's blocked by Michael Ennis. However, Ethan Lowe scores. I believe it's Ethan Lowe. Someone scores, and they go to 20-14. And it's kind of out of the reach now, except in the last 30 seconds, we got a chance to at least try and level it. Andrew Fafita, half line break. There's guys around him, but Lachlan Coote, Cowboys fullback, tiny little fullback, with a one-on-one tackle turnover ends the game. But having his time back, we could have won that game, or at least leveled it, but wasn't meant to be. Cowboys win 20-14. Sharks' first loss of the year. They're 0-1, but they've shown enough to say that they're going to be finals bound already at that point. They've shown enough to us.
And
now,
you go, Sam.
I was just going to say that's where there's a full stop. I don't think we're going to win the comp, but we've already seen a lot of fight in this team, and the important people you want to see the fight from, and the changes from Townsend and Maloney and Barber and Ennis to a lesser degree that he was there the year before, that is there. So they're very good signs.
And you can almost see, like I mentioned, so at the start of the game, the hit-ups are coming from the forwards, and then near the end of the game, around the time that Maloney misses that field goal, there is one really great set just beforehand where it is actually the backs and the forwards, and they combine and they're rolling down the field, and they are just making meters and just going straight through them. And that was a key look at what was ahead for us. And then you can almost see Ennis is still kicking, and he's still dictating terms near the halftime break. But then again, once things are sort of loosening up, Gallen's injured, so he's off the field, like you said. That's when, if any of you go back and watch it, it's at NRL.com, you can watch both halves there. You can see that while we started the game with Ennis dictating terms, the short passes, you mentioned the one from Barber, Maloney is doing short pass after short pass, arguably more important than his kicking game in this game, is putting people into space. And then that last Andrew Fifita run is off a Chad short ball straight to Fifita to get down there and give us a chance to level things up. So you can see how things are almost working in real time, where from the start of the game, you've got Ennis, who is the one sort of key member of the spine that was there the year before. He's sort of going, okay, I'm taking this on my back, and I'm going to try and make sure that we can not lose 39-0, because he's the one that was there for it the year before. And then by the end of the game, you've got Chad's eased his way into the game with his short passing game. Maloney's short passing game is unbelievable, as well as their kicking game. And then you've got everything just sort of clicking, where the one note that I made after full time when I watched it back was, I remember feeling it was as optimistic as you possibly could be after a round one loss. Obviously, you want to get the W, but you look at what's in store for us there, just literally from minute 1 to minute 80. And you see how things are just humming along. And you'll probably mention just before the Manly game at the start of the season, there was a big spine meeting to try and make sure that they could hash things out. I'm sure you'll probably elaborate on that more when you get to that episode, Sam. But you can almost just see in real time as the game is going how the Lego pieces are all just getting added on top of each other, and you can see who's complementing who. It's such a fascinating thing to look back on, because literally over the course of 80 minutes, you can see it happening in real time. It's really fascinating to watch with hindsight.
Yeah, and there'll be other examples of that, not necessarily every game, but like, for example, round 2 against the Dragons, they're doing it on the run. And what I loved about this, Ben, and you can see it, as you said, in the vision, is that, you know, if there was a drop ball or after a try, whenever there was time to sort of talk, it was usually Chad talking to Maloney and not really the other way around. And I don't know what they were saying. I don't know if it was an instruction or a question, but they're talking and Chad's sort of stirring up the talk. And then Jimmy's sort of talking back, all very amicable and just trying to get a knowledge of how each other plays. But you can see it on the run, as you said. And yeah, if you watch it, look out for that kind of thing, because that's equally as fascinating as like inside balls or whatever, because they're literally doing it on the fly. Now, they've had all summer to work it out. I'm not suggesting it was all brand new. They've had all summer, but it's very cool to watch. And then if you look at, for example, the bench, Chris Hyington and Jason Peculiar in particular, their roles wouldn't change too much. Like they were pretty much perennial benchies, but they were locked in as benchies. I mean, they may have started throughout the year, but they were, you're obviously not going to remove Luke Lewis, Wade Graham, and Paul Gallen, but they were really important guys off the bench. Hyington, with his experience, premiership winner, done it all at that level, and a really great player, physical, and a lot of energy, a lot of chat, a lot of talk about him. He was a leader. And then Bicuya, who people who listen to this regularly know I'm such a Jason Bicuya guy, but the leg speed that he had, the leg drive that he had, meant that he was just making meters left, right, and center, and that would become pivotal as well. So you can just see little pockets here and guys finding their feet. And, a guy like Bicuya maybe wasn't guaranteed that spot in years gone by, but he's probably thinking, well, if I keep doing my job, it's a very simple job. Just come on, rip and tear for 20, 30 minutes and get off. Like, that's not a hard role. And same could be said for Chris Hyington. I mean, his position probably wasn't in any doubt, but there's a lot of stability. And we know that year, I think we used the fewest players in the comp, and that's what wins your title. So I think, Ben, there's a lot of fascinating things for people to get their head around with round one.
And one of the things that that Flanagan was quoted about in the lead up to the first game was he was talking about how he really wanted the players that had been there previously to sort of get their own voice. And you had, players like Feki, Latelli that were more the quiet types, and like a Bicuya, the quiet types that aren't going to really raise their voice out there on the field. But then you were introducing a player like Jack Bird in 2015 that was really comfortable speaking up to the Mick Ennis's and the Paul Gallens and really sort of raised his voice. And by sprinkling in Maloney as well, the thing that he wanted to do was to make sure that everybody could raise their voice and be heard. And that was one thing that they really focused on in the preseason, from what Flanagan said, was making sure that everybody sort of could gel with each other, because you do have that stark difference between the Fekis, Holmes of the world, and then the confidence of someone like a Barber and a Maloney that are coming into the squad in 2015, 2016. And even the difference between the forwards that you're talking about, a Jason Bicuya is very different to a Chris Hyington, and the same way that Pryor is different off the field to what Fafita is like. All these personalities need to gel, and it's really fascinating to see, like you said, with Chad doing a lot of the talking in the beginning, how everybody's just finding their own voice and how that's going to work.
Yeah, and you raise a very good point, because if you think about voices and being heard, and you go through the team, you got Ben Barber, who a lot of experience and a pretty chatty guy on and off the field. Jack Bird, for a kid, we'd already seen the year before against the Roosters, give me the ball in the fifth, I'll win you this game single-handedly, and does. And he didn't back down from that his whole career. Maloney, chatty. Townsend, chatty. Andrew Fafita, chatty. Mick Ennis, chatty. I would imagine Luke Lewis a bit more understated, but still chatty out in the field. Wade Graham, Paul Gallen, Chris Hyington, like, that's a lot of voices, but they're all kind of good voices, and they're all,
and not only that,
they're all similar kind of attitude as well, which I like.
And if you think about it, like if you compare it to, we were talking in the last episode about like is Blake going to be the captain, or is it a Cam McInnes thing? And I know we were sort of, well, not struggling, but almost struggling to be like, at the time, who is going to be able to step up and be our captain there? And then you compare that to the 2016 side and all those names that you mentioned. There are so many players that could have been a club captain at any of the teams that were in the comp in 2016. Like, we're talking like almost half, if not more than half of the side could have easily had the captain next to their name, and no one would have sort of batted an eyelid at it. And whether you could have put it against Bird's name, or you could have put it against Fafita's name, and whether they were young or they were experienced, it's just very funny to see that like that team is stacked.
It is, and we'll say that every episode, like, it is stacked.
Yeah, we will.
And that's what won it for him. Also, just thinking, the naysayers that we as Sharks fans, we are, and especially were, I could just imagine the comments on League Unlimited and Sharks Forever and wherever else we're going for comments back then about the NRL sticking it to us round one up there playing the Premiers. Oh, of course that's going to happen to the Sharks. But it shows from that challenge a lot of positivity, more than held our own, didn't get the win. But I would imagine a lot of knowledge and confidence came from that challenge, as opposed to maybe, wiping the floor with a lesser team in round one at Shark Park. Well, maybe this game is more important than we have even suggested.
And one of the notes that I made after watching the game was that it's unbelievable the difference between how close this game was, round one of the season, where really all the off-season momentum is with the Cowboys. They've won the grand final. They have practically the same side. They're getting a new stadium built. They're getting the statue of JT built. Like, everything is on their side, right? And you compare that to how one-sided the final was, the prelim final between us and the Cowboys later that year. There is a stark difference between the two teams at the start of the year and the two teams at the end of the year. It is night and day between how close the game in round one is and really how lopsided the prelim final ends up being. There are obviously a lot of factors into that in terms of the experience that we had. We had the week off, they didn't. But beside the point, there's a stark difference between the improvement of us at the start and the improvement of us by the end of the year as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So Sharks lose, but a lot was gained in round one against the Cowboys. Ben, we'll leave it there. Appreciate your insight as a 2016 scholar. I've made an executive decision that you will, availability willing, you will be involved in every episode. There was no doubt in my mind, but I just feel
I thought you were just going to give me the losses. That was what I thought you were just going to do, is give me the losses and Kieran would get all the good ones. So you just would, but the thing is, you wouldn't hear from me for like a big chunk of the season then, and I'd only pop up near the end. So I guess you might have fit me in.
Ben, you've got a 16-week break coming up.
Yeah, that's right.
What I'm saying is we'll get you on when we can, definitely, because you obviously love 2016, and we'll get other people involved too. So it won't just be you and I necessarily every time we do this. We're not sure how often we'll do it, but we want to get there by the time of the 10-year anniversary, that's for sure. If not, a whole bunch sooner. This is not planned. We're just going to work it out as we go along. They might be shorter episodes. They might be longer. Bear with us. We're doing our best here to provide you with some fun. So remember, year of the monkey, unless another animal comes in. But 2016, year of the monkey.
I had a thought. The year of the monkey coming off our back.
Hey,
you like that?
I love it. That's a good out, as they say in the business.
Yeah.
That's gold, Benny. All right. Thanks for your time, brother. Everyone, I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you didn't, don't let us know about it. We're too fragile for that. And we'll be back with another one. Off the message boards. We'll be back soon with more episodes, including things like this, but other more current topics as well. Up Cronulla. Who knows what this year may bring and what year I'm talking about? I'm not sure. I'm so confused. Up Cronulla. Let's go.